Anyway, we're very fortunate to have so many friends out here for Rand Paul on this delightful evening. You can actually consider yourselves as making history tonight, as this is the very first official fundraiser for Rand Paul. This is the first one of his political career, hopefully a long political career. I'd like to recognize and acknowledge a couple of people that have given a lot back to the community and have adjusted and supported themselves to like-minded people, like most of the people here tonight. They're the co-hosts for this evening. That is Jim and Darlene Johnson. Right over here, would you raise your hands? Thank you for co-hosting this. Also here tonight is the Kentucky State Representative, Jim DeCesare. Woo! Jim. There he is. With us this evening we have Judge Grice, Chief Circuit Judge of Warren County, and his lovely wife, Sarah Glenn. Where are they? We're glad you're here. Again, we want you to continue to enjoy the food from Cambridge Market, and also Mr. Potter set up to help you with any beverages. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to our co-host, Jim Johnson. Jim?
I'll be very brief. I just wanted to say what a privilege it is to support Rand and to be a neighbor. He's a wonderful person, has a wonderful family, Kelly and the boys, and he's going to make an awesome U.S. Senator, And, you know, if you'd asked me 4 years ago if we had a chance to elect somebody with Rand's views and policies and political outlook, I'd say not this time. But I will say, as of today, we can do it. And Rand, we're with you 100%.
Thank you very much. Many years ago, there was an Academy Awards presentation, and Sally Fields was there, and she was really excited. And she said, "You like me, you really like me." You may have heard that story, and she got a lot of grief for that, but I was thinking of that tonight, and I was thinking, you know, speakers are always poaching other speeches, and I thought, well, maybe I'll start with that. But then I thought, you know, that probably won't work, and besides, I think most of the people actually come here because they like my better half, who I'd like to introduce tonight, Kelly Paul. I also have 3 sons here. My middle son videotaping here, Duncan. My oldest son, William, and my youngest son, Robert, somewhere. But thank you very much for coming out tonight. I want to thank the Johnsons and the Warners. When I first started kind of delving into this and letting people know that I might be interested in doing this, the first phone call I got was Gayla Warner. And I really appreciated that. And she said, any way I can help. But little did she realize I would actually call her back up and really ask her to help. But I do appreciate them opening their home to us. I appreciate both of them. It's not always easy to take a stand in a primary, not only for a candidate, but for other people. There's a lot of pressure from many others to support whoever the establishment supports or whoever will be the favorite, maybe. But I do appreciate the people here tonight and those, the hosts and the sponsors who gave to me and are taking a chance. Many years ago there was a big budget battle, and a congressman comes out on the steps in Washington, and it was very close, and they didn't know which way he was going to vote. And they came out and they said, "Well, why did you decide to vote finally for the budget?" And he said, "Well, I went with the best deal." And the reporter said, "Well, what does that mean? Does that mean your vote's for sale?" He said, "Well, no, but it's for rent." Unfortunately, that's kind of what motivates me to run for office, not because I want to rent or sell my vote, but because that's what happens. People do it sometimes explicitly. Duke Cunningham was a great war hero. He went to Congress, though, and then he took money. He took money directly from defense contractors, and that's not the way it should work. Some people take money directly. Some people take it indirectly. They take it through campaign contributions, and they vote accordingly. And I think that's a problem. In 1994, the Republicans took over the House of Representatives, and they did it on some issues. Some of the issues I am quite fond of, such as limiting terms. And they actually had some votes and won in one house, but didn't win in the other house. But very quickly, it changed, and there was one prominent congressman who was a Republican who changed the strategy, and they actually had a name for it. They called it the K Street strategy. K Street is where all the lobbyists are. And they said, you know what, we were for all these things like limiting government and balanced budgets, but you know what? Let's go over to K Street. If we will offer them what they want, what each special interest runs, we'll stay in power for 40 years like the Democrats did. So instead of being different when we got in power, we became like they were. And I think that's a problem. I look at things really not in partisan ways. I'm very opinionated, and I have strong opinions about what we should do about government, but I don't see it as a Republican-Democrat paradigm. I don't see it that we simply vote for something because a Republican introduced it, or vote against it because a Democrat introduced it. But what we have to do is we have to say we have serious problems in our country. Next year, the deficit will be 13% of the gross national product. This is a historic high. Federal spending will be 28% of the gross national product. Once again, a historic high. I think the deficit and the debt brings repercussions. One of the things that the debt brings is it brings inflation. The way they pay for the debt, you can pay taxes, but nobody's willing to pay enough taxes to pay for the debt. You can also borrow it, but we've borrowed $700 billion from the Chinese, $700 billion from the Japanese, over $100 billion from the Saudis. They're tired of loaning to us too. So we've borrowed so much. The way we pay for the debt, the third way we do is by monetizing the debt. We print money. The Federal Reserve prints money, but as that money enters the circulation, the prices rise. In the last year, we doubled the monetary base. Now, what does this mean? It may not mean anything yet because the money hasn't gotten out of the banks, but when it does, through fractional reserves, it's multiplied tenfold. Banks only have to keep 10% on hand, so every $1,000 they get from the Federal Reserve becomes $10,000 when it gets into the economy. We are in danger. This is a historic creation of money, an historic doubling of the bank reserves. We are in danger of having inflation worse than we had in 1979. In 1979, interest and inflation rose to the 18 to 20% level. We are in danger of something like that happening. As government grows bigger and as the debt grows bigger, though, we also lose our freedoms. There are a lot of things that are going on right now. There's being a massive transformation of government. But the one message, and where I'm a little different than some Republicans, is that every Republican in the House voted against the stimulus package. Every Republican in the House voted against Obama's debt, his deficit, $1.75 trillion. But you know what the Republican alternative was? A $500 billion debt. It's still deficit financing. All throughout the Reagan years, the George W. Bush years, we went from $5 trillion debt to $10 trillion debt. So we as Republicans didn't do a very good job either. And that's what I tell them. I'm not afraid to tell people this as I go around. I talk to GOP events. I've probably been to 30 events so far. Is that we need to self-examine as a party. The Republican Party needs to decide it's not important enough just to have an R behind your name. It doesn't mean anything unless the party believes in something, unless we imbue the party with some values. And those values have to be done better, and we have to go to Washington and vote against some of the spending. But we didn't do a very good job when we were in charge. We actually added the largest entitlement program of the last 40 years since LBJ, and that was a Medicare prescription drug plan. Everybody wants everybody to have medicine, but you can't just do it blindly and say, well, just go ahead and we'll pay for it somehow. That's what we have now coming on with the health care reform. The title of the health care reform is Free Choices in Health. The more benign sounding a title is in Washington, the more ominous the contents are if you read them. On pages 16 to 19 of the Health Care Act that they're calling free choice, it says that to buy health insurance, after this goes into effect, if you change jobs and want to leave and buy new health insurance, you can only buy that which is approved by a government panel. Now, we've already done this in Kentucky. In 1994, we passed health care reform, and we had 37 companies here in the state, and 35 of them left. They pass it, and they say you can only